Good morning and welcome to the new episode of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. We often say justice delayed is justice denied. But the justice denied is just one part of justice delayed. And we are seeing nowadays ample examples all over of instant justice. And that too a justice given by a rabble of uneducated, agitated, motivated, prejudiced mob. Is that the real justice? And that raises a plethora of questions. A. Is the justice by a crowd justified? Secondly, is a justice or is it just plain rioting and killing? If you remember Dostoevsky's all-time great novel, Crime and Punishment, the hero Rodin Raskolnikov initiated a classical discourse on sociology of crime and rationale of the society punishing the criminal. It was a common belief till the second half of the 19th century when this immortal character was created that a criminal is cursed creature who deserves exemplary punishment, and that too publicly. And if you remember, in the days of youth, it was a common practice to hang a person in a public square, or in some religions, kill a person by stoning or bury alive. There have been cases when the people have been put in the boiling water, made to sit on the burning sun and have the red hot sand poured on them. Waterboarding. Most of those justices, though incorrect, were through a properly constituted agency. There's a law code, right or wrong. There was a hearing, and then there was a decision. At least some semblance of believing that a person is innocent till proved guilty was there, though it was wrong. But things have changed. The justice we have got to understand very clearly was often instant with few rights available to the person facing the judge. And who's the judge? An absolutely prejudiced, ignorant mob of people who don't have any brains at that time. They are very capable people individually. In normal course, it should be called rioting and murder and lynching. And yet we call it justice. In many cases, a person declared guilty, stoned, beheaded, hanged in public, and that was done legally. But there has been a change in society in the face of the criminal, and then in deciding what's a crime, what are the phases of a crime, who is responsible for administering justice, and the punishment. So the crime and punishment offer a very fascinating, very interesting insight to the changing value systems of society. We have now established courts of justice, starting with the lowest court, going up to the Sessions, High and Supreme Court. That means deliberation, thought, and those uninterested people who have no axe to grind, who are not prejudiced, who have been trained in administration of justice, decide the fate of the person. And many times we have seen that the people escape. They are not punished, but then that's justified. It's better that 100 guilty persons go scot-free than one innocent person is punished. And then the concept of crime has changed. What was crime at one time is no longer a crime. Abortion was a crime at one time, not any longer, within certain limits. Most societies don't punish extramarital relationship, which would invite stoning to death in countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan, where they declare a woman Kari. That Kari is a concept of instant justice. One person says she has been dishonest and start just stoning her. LGBT people were not considered deviant but were considered criminals. So the rights of the person, even to be heard, to defend himself or herself, are now reasonably recognized as a part of the natural justice. Is like the journey of the state towards civilization. A more civilized society means compassion, increased compassion towards the guilty person or presumed guilty, because the person is innocent until proved guilty. So the purpose of punishment changes from destruction of the soul and body to facilitating him to become an integral part of the nation. And nation states that top to the human development ladder have lately abolished capital punishment. Even in India, where capital punishment is not abolished, it is given only in the rarest of the rare circumstances. Civilized societies have recognized the right of the accused as a part of natural justice. And instant justice has become a thing of the past as far as the regular justice is concerned. But yet we see people have been killed, burned, decapitated because they belong to a certain faith. A rumor goes up that so and so is having beef and the person is lynched. So and so marries a person of the other community, and lo, the justice comes into being, the instant justice. So, the instant justice, where the man is not hurt, and if it's hurt, is by a sort of a illiterate, uneducated, biased, prejudiced group of people. The sudden appearance of a bulldozer in the shape of a mob denies the victim any opportunity to avail the legal course, and a person is condemned to avoid the arrogant crowd, biased, destroy him. Unfortunately, it's happening in India. And that's why I'm very critical of the Supreme Court judgment. But sometimes I feel that we are modernizing at the surface in India. But underneath the surface, we are still the old, brutal class. As a matter of fact, even the idioms used in our local languages show that we were essentially cannibals. The normal idiom in Indian languages, मैं तेरा खून पी जाऊंगा, I'll drink your blood. मैं तुम्हें कच्चा खा जाऊंगा, I'll eat you raw. मैं तेरा कीमा कर दूंगा, I'll make mincemeat of you. These phrases show that we have not come out of that cannibalistic attitudes. And that is what's happening with what I call the instant justice. There was one politician in India whom I never liked, Ram Manohar Lohia, a dominant personality in the political discourse till the 1960s. But He was very right in one way when he described this tendency as the cruel cowardice. An average Indian dared not oppose the Gunda of his locality, and he never gave a chance. But then he'll be cowering before the gangster, but the moment got a chance, say somebody is accused of pickpocketing, and then he'll be happy to join the crowd and give a beating to that pickpocket. So the Indian state also displays this tendency at times, though of course is not brazenly as of late. As a matter of fact, I've seen that there is always a complicity, and the state and the police force look the other way around when a dreaded outlaw is gunned down in a supposed encounter. And encounter specialists are lauded by the people. Wow, this is a great officer. He is encounter specialist. He has killed 64. Even Bollywood movies have been made on that, as if it's a badge of honor. A society which lives by this standard, where a killer is honored, is shameful. You remember when V.P. Singh was the then Chief Minister and the state publicly extolled encounters, they were exactly fake governments, and they would not acknowledge the encounters. A state has supposed to take corrective measures, though unwillingly. Often a long gap is there between the political and executive functionaries come into being, and that's a state of affairs. The police has been given the role of investigator, judge and executioner when they indulge in encounters. Now there are two sorts of justice. The instant justice by the law and order people themselves who become gangsters in uniform. And that's why I remember Justice A.N. Mullah, Anand Narayan Mullah, the Allahabad High Court in 50s, he declared that UP police is the worst organized gang of gangsters. So being investigator, judge and executioner give them ample power to do what they want. And we have seen in the last few years hundreds of people who were not declared guilty by court of law was shot in the legs and they became cripples. And unfortunately, the large number of people support this cruelty both indulged by the law and order forces and by the common mass of the people, mobs. The gangsters who sexually assaulted and murdered a director were taken out of jail and killed by police in a manner that would have shaken the conscience of any civilized society. You remember that. But the people of Hyderabad celebrated this ghastly violation of law. Recently, a man from one community in Hyderabad married a girl from another community, and the result is he is shot at. The traditional attraction of instant justice has discouraged citizens from asking questions about the inability of the justice dispensation of the country. And there are hundreds of anecdotes of the people coming on the streets and celebrating the killing of the person by the police and with the crowd. And that's the unfortunate part. This shows two things. One, attraction towards instant justice and acceptance of an outdated legal framework which is not equipped to meet the challenge of modern day life. And the state also appears to be very happy about this uncivil acceptance, and I've seen a couple of chief ministers, the previous, exulting in that. And that's unfortunate. This uncivil acceptance as bringing fundamental change in the police procedures, prosecution, and courts will invoke expenditure. So why not indulge in instant justice, which is cheap, quick, and people love it. But the time has come for the nation has to change and choose between an expensive civilized justice system or a brutal tradition. After all, if the mob lynches a person, then what's the difference between you and the Taliban, who would declare a woman Kari because she did not oblige the chief and did not give him the sexual favors. So she is Kari. Declare a Qazi just to say she is Kari and then start stoning her or burying her alive. The recent instance of bulldozing even, whether residential and commercial dwelling of the people, is also an unpardonable crime, and that has opened Pandora's box, from where some very uncomfortable questions are emanating. I'm not bothered about the situation as such, but the unfortunate part is that we are not bothered. What happens is that the instant justice makes an individual barbaric, and the society, in fact, becomes a relic of barbarism. This instant justice culture is turning Indian state into an uncivilized, uncultured state, despite all the protestations to the contrary. Imagine somebody recites a religious scripture and he and she is a couple. They are charged for sedition. I never knew that reciting a scripture can be an act of sedition. Yes, you can say disturbing public order. You can say refusing to obey the law, but you can't call it sedition. So the danger is imminent, and if this is not stopped immediately, India and Pakistan, of course. You see, when I say India, Pakistan is worse. They are not in any way different as far as the instant justice is concerned. And so is it in USA. Black Lives Matter indulge in this. So if this doesn't stop, we are in fact living in the dark ages. And we lose whatever we achieved through the excellent constitution that we had in the 70s. The journey is to make society democratic and amenable to the rule of law rather than ruled by a crowd. And that is a tragedy. We often willingly accept the rule of the crowd, the rule of the mob, and say goodbye to the rule of law, the due process of law. Let's not forget that tomorrow you can be a victim of that. It's better to wake up and ensure that the due process of law is observed. And let's again not forget, it's better that 100 criminals go free than one innocent person is punished. And the instant justice has no place in any civilized society, especially when it's meted out by uneducated, uninformed rabble who just have a lust for blood and not justice in their mind. Think about it. What is in store for the future generations if the things are not rectified? Thank you.